Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Voice of Stockton, and KXVS Radio. I will discuss relevant issues affecting animals and pet owners today, how to avoid common problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
This is Miriam, and you're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton.
You know what I got? I got a picture of his face with the little pillow on, the sleep face, and we're in Chicago.
Are they already in Chicago?
The one and only Leo Biaz. Hey, Leo.
I'm excited to be back, my man. It was 9 days in Vegas. We got stuck in the desert, and we had a little hangover remix out there, man.
I wore a wig to school once, and they said no headgear was allowed.
How did
spider web
was it
tights.
Obvious that it was a wig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was having fun,
wig.
and they said
See,
no
this is
headgear
exactly
was
why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun. How did
spider web
was it
tights.
obvious that it was a wig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was having fun, and they said
See,
no
this is
headgear
exactly
was
why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun. How did
spider web
was it
tights.
obvious?
Do you want to relive the golden days of Stockton? Join me not on Stockton
See, this
Alone
is
every
exactly
first
why we
and
have
third
them on
Monday
the show.
at 6
This is what makes them
p.m. Tune into
fun.
thevoiceofstockton.org.
Spider web
Was it
tights.
obvious?
Do you want to relive the golden days of Stockton? Join me not on Stockton
See, this
Alone
is
every
exactly
first
why we
and third
have them on
Monday
the show.
at 6
This is what makes them
p.m. Tune
fun.
into thevoiceofstockton.org.
Spider web
Hi,
tights.
if you want to relive Dr. Julie Vanderman, local veterinarian from Stockton.
I am so excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Hi, if you want to relive
Dr.
Dr.
Julie
Julie
Vanderman of
Vanderman,
Stockton,
local
and
veterinarian from
Radio. I will discuss excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Hi, if you want to relive Dr. Julie Vanderman,
of Stockton,
veterinarian from
I will discuss excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Hi, if you want to relive Dr. Julie Vanderman, veterinarian from
Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10 for Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Stockton.
The voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host, the voice of Stockton, the voice of San Joaquin, presents Tell It Like It Is with your host,
A lot of us are not going to go out there and do, right? But they'll go out there and they'll work. They won't complain. They do the jobs that we don't want to do. And so, you know, you can't, I mean, just as an American, just to see, you know, families get tear gas, even if you don't agree with the caravan, that's still your heart got an ache for him because you got, you know, I seen a picture where a guy, he was in the middle and he tried to run through and the tear gas hit him and he had him all bandaged up. And he was from head to toe. His arm was all in a cast. And it's sad because if they're leaving a dictatorship or if they're leaving, you know, a country that has been persecuting them and they can't find work, to come over here to find work, and not even saying that they want to, you know, be no tech CEO, but they just want to do the field labor jobs. And to get tear gas, you know, it's got to be sad. Well, no matter whether if you're Republican or Democrat, just as an American citizen.
No, I agree, totally agree, and I think that's what's being lost in the political debate because, like everything, it has become a political debate, and I think that there are some things that we should be able to all agree on as Americans that, you know, there are some things that don't look good and some things that are not necessary as far as firing tear gas at children and unarmed civilians, you know, wasn't really necessary. I think there's different ways to deal with the situation. I think if there is a crisis at the border, this nation has shown in the past that when there is an influx of immigration, it has risen to meet the challenging needs of those immigrants seeking asylum or seeking refuge, as it so famously proclaims on the Statue of Liberty. Ellis Island processed thousands a day of immigrants coming over from Europe and the so-called Old World. Why can't this, and this was, you know, going on more than 100 years ago, why can't, with all of our modern day technology and computers and infrastructure, can't we organize to meet the needs of this group seeking asylum, to either say this person is genuine, they need help, they need assistance, or this person is a violent gang member, we're not going to let them in because we fear for the safety of citizens in our own nation. I think that they can logistically do it if they really had the willpower to, right? If it was a necessity or a priority. The same way they can mobilize troops at the border, the same way we can mobilize the immigration system to deal with processing these asylum seekers.
But let's look at the new president. So the new president came in. I don't know if you watched the ceremony. They had some kind of, I guess
it was an indigenous ceremony.
Remember they had
it was copal incense, which
so I watched it.
Comes back from the Aztecs and the Maya, and it is a blessing.
Okay.
It's
and so now I watched it, and he immediately said, okay, we do have a crisis. We have about 6,000 immigrants here, and we have to address this. So I believe he wants to work with Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador on saying, okay, let's fix the work. Let's boost the economy, and if we can boost the economy, that can kind of calm down this all these immigrants that are coming into Tijuana right now. Do you think that really worked? Because even if let's say you even boosted Honduras economy, right? Let's say you even boosted Guatemala or El Salvador, right? You even got more factory jobs. Do you think those immigrants want to go back? Because I heard one lady say, she was saying that, you know what, I walked too far. I don't care what President Trump said. I'm coming to America. This is where I'm going to America, right? So let's just say that this president and the other 3 countries can come together and say, you know what, we can create more jobs. We can create safe havens for these migrants. Now, should they still be out here seeking asylum if the countries can provide a better life for them?
Well, I think right now the immigrant caravan that is seeking asylum right now is an immediate need. That's not going to be fixed overnight from changes in economic policies. But the last president of Mexico, right before going out, made sure that they updated the NAFTA agreement between the United States and Mexico.
What they call the U.S. Mexico Canada deal or something like that?
Yeah, so I think that needs to be looked at, because to me the timing of it, and they even a lot of Mexicans that I know are mad because the president of Mexico, the outgoing
Pena, right?
one, he gave
Pena?
He gave the an award, the highest civilian award that
to
could
Jared
be given
Kushner, right?
To Jared Kushner.
Okay.
That's how you say his name, right? Kushner?
That's Kushner,
okay.
However you say it. He's a Democrat, so you should know. So,
Trump's
you guys
we got a fact check on that, man.
Give it a dot and fact check. Hey, Jared Kushner, can we fact check that? So we fact check it tonight,
Democrat?
so I can get the. We got the bells tonight, the little ding ding bells.
He must be one of those Hillary Democrats.
I mean, he could be a Bernie Sanders supporter.
A corporate Democrat.
Just pull him up, all right? And I want to hear the ding like you did last week, the ding ding. Okay, we about to tell it like it is right now.
Regardless of what party he's in.
Okay.
He received the Order of the Aztec Eagle, which is the highest civilian award that the nation of Mexico offers, specifically for his help with that trade agreement. So I know NAFTA did not work out good for either American workers or Mexican workers in Mexico. So
what is NAFTA? Explain what NAFTA
is. NAFTA is an acronym for the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Okay, so what is it? What
it is, it is supposedly is free trade between the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Correct.
Considering manufacturing, tariffs, imports, exports, all this kind of economical needs for these nations.
But why didn't it work?
A big part of the reason why it did not work in Mexico specifically, and for other reasons in the United States, but in Mexico specifically, is because what you allowed now is you open the doors for these transnational corporations that operate in multiple nations, specifically with the corn industry. So now what you had is these major corn corporations that can then go and buy out and out kind of edge the market with these local Mexican farmers who have subsisted on this crop for generations, and now they're being cornered out of the market by these multinational corporations that are able to drop the prices lower.
But they didn't pay them as much the wages as well. Wasn't there something with NAFTA where, these companies came over to Mexico, right, and they didn't pay them their fair wages, but they made more profits. So when in theory, if you're paying these workers less, the agreement is failing because it's like these companies are still making more of the profits, right? But I thought with the new agreement, they then had to pay fair wages to the citizens of Mexico.
So that's what has yet to be seen.
But that's what the agreement was supposed to be, though, right? It's supposed to
the original agreement was supposed to be beneficial, but it did not work out that way.
But the new agreement, the one that President Pena, when he left, that he signed with the Trump administration, wasn't supposed to address the issues of wages as related in the...
Yeah. That is many other issues with NAFTA. So what happened, as soon as you saw NAFTA go into play in 1994, which was negotiated by George Bush, who just passed away, and it was signed into law by Bill Clinton, that if you look at the data, you will see an explosion in illegal immigration from Mexico specifically right after NAFTA took place, because so many local economies were being decimated by that agreement. You can also follow suit with American cities and towns where you see a lot of factories close up and move to Mexico or move to places like China, which is separate from NAFTA, but it's part of a greater pattern where these corporations are maximizing their profits, not for the benefit of American workers or Mexican workers, but really for their shareholders, to the point where we got to ask at which point is that working against the nation.
Yeah.
So now Mexico has a new president, right? And he's been penned as the Bernie Sanders of Mexico. He is a populist champion of the working class and the poor and what people call leftists, and so it has yet to be seen. Many people, including myself, are hopeful that he's going to lead Mexico in a new direction and try to root out some of this corruption. But then you also have things come out like the testimony with one of El Chapo's lieutenants saying, look,
he cut his face and he put another face on him.
What they were saying was, this person, all these politicians have received bribes from El Chapo throughout the years, and AMLO was named one of them. So it has yet to be proven, of course.
But the same El Chapo that used to always break out of the Mexican prison, that he can get tunnels dug, that he can walk out, and the same old Chapo that had his wife come to the Mexican prison. You can fact check this too, Governor. I think he made a baby in the Mexico prison too as well.
I think we should also include that El Chapo was the connection. The person who's testifying against him is the one supplying the drugs. So.
That's true.
And then it's like the United States, the one buying the drugs, and the person supplying the drugs is trying to pit the middleman in the middle.
Right.
I don't know how much I can trust any of that.
All the middleman's
all in the name of justice. All in the name of justice. Did you get Jared Kushner?
Yeah. So let's clear it. Let's make sure we understand.
I want my ding right now.
Yes. You got it, because Jared Kushner had been a lifelong Democrat.
There we go.
Prior
to
Donald Trump entering politics. So he's donating to both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Says that
that's right.
According to the article,
and that's why he won the award.
He after I don't know. I guess he was disappointed in Barack Obama. A common thing. I'm not sure what did it, but
he's the one that had to talk with Donald Trump,
Obama,
convince him to run.
He supported Mitt Romney in the second race of Obama, and then comes out supporting
Donald
Trump.
Little ding whistle today for
and
ding
his lifelong conversion. I think that gets more than a ding. I think you dropped a bomb on us, man. Oh, that's the whistle. That ain't a bomb. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
No, but through all this, Trump has recently said too, with the influx, that he's already said that he's not letting no one in unless they really seek asylum. He's saying that Mexico has to keep them in Mexico. So I don't know what's going to happen when you have the Ninth Circuit. Remember, they just ruled that it doesn't matter if they come to a port of entry, if they hop the fence, if they seek an asylum. Our laws say if they're seeking asylum, that you must honor their request. But yet he's saying, you know what? I don't care what you're saying. They're going to stay in Mexico. And if you hop the fence, I'm going to send you back. And if you look at it, Mexico has already said those 500 individuals that try to breach the border, they're going to deport them. So if Mexico really does deport those 500 individuals, then who really won? Trump has really won, because he told Mexico, okay, if you don't deport them, I'm gonna cut your funding. Well, so he's playing hardball.
You could say he won on that point, but overall he's trying to deny everybody entry, right? So I think let's keep in mind he tried to deny any type of asylum at all. He tried to deny they were even seeking asylum. They had a right to access applying for asylum. So I think on that sense, Trump has lost and will lose. He won a minor victory of Mexico saying, okay, we're going to, because that looks bad on Mexico as well, where they also don't want that type of activity involved in their nation. I know I have a friend who was there in Tijuana who was also like, hey, everybody here is upset about the situation. All the Mexicans here are upset about the situation because it's affecting travel, people having the ability to get to work. They
Well,
shut down
hold on, the
border
murder rate's
for
going
6
up because you
hours.
had those two, just recently in San
Again,
Diego, you
what's
had
that?
those two individuals.
Again, I don't think that has a correlation.
No,
though.
okay.
I
So
gotta-
just
I gotta
recently,
dispute the
you had those
correlation.
two individuals from San Diego. They just graduated, or so, and they
Okay, the
traveled.
students, yep.
And you had the two
There
students
was
that they
3.
traveled to Tijuana.
There were 3.
Right. Well, 2 got killed. They said like gang style. They said
Yeah.
they got shot in the head. They might have been on their knees.
But that's not the first time that's happened.
But
in
we're
Tijuana.
seeing. But what I'm
with
saying
people
is,
coming over from
we're seeing this
the
more.
border.
We're starting to see this more because of.
I
the,
wouldn't again to fact check. I need my ding ding on
Oh,
this. I
come
can't-
on. It just-
I can't
no,
say
no,
we
no,
got.
it just-
I gotta jump
correlation
in.
is causation.
Okay,
You said the murder rate is going up. Murder rate is not going up, but yes, we are learning about.
What I'm saying
we're
is,
learning about.
Okay, I'm
incidents.
saying we're learning
I'm
about
gonna need my
incidents
ding on
more.
that one.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. What ding? That is a gift ding right there. If I don't ever hear one. But no, I'm just saying if you look at it, you're starting to hear about these tragedies more because of the migrant, right? Like I didn't
it's
hear
not
stories.
that you're hearing about it more.
I didn't hear about these
It's just
stories
that
before.
individuals like yourself may not have paid attention to Mexico before because there was not this showdown. If we say at the border, so now the spotlight is on the border. So now a story like this comes out. And people jump to the false conclusion that, now it's happening more often. But the reality is this has been taking place for a long time and may have zero to do with the caravan.
And so even when you said earlier, you said that Trump might lose. And so me and Governor Don was talking before we got on and about Brett Kavanaugh. And what's important is Trump fought for Brett Kavanaugh, right? So whether you believe he should be appointed on the bench or not, it's irrelevant. He's on there now unless he gets impeached. So Trump fought for Brett Kavanaugh. Trump fought for Neil Gorsuch. And, Clarence Thomas is bitter. And Justice Roberts is conservative as they come. So with that being said, Trump really has 5 judges, and 2 of them, well, possibly 3, are loyal to him just because of everything that happened to them personally, right? Because Neil Gorsuch got attacked, Brett Kavanaugh got accused. Whether you believe him or don't believe him, that's just up to opinions. But at the end, if it goes to the Supreme Court, do you have faith in the Supreme Court that they'll do the right thing, or will they be loyalists to Trump because of what he did, because he stuck his neck out for them, at least 2 of them? Will they be loyal to them, and how would they rule? You think they'll rule on the side of the Constitution? Do you think they'll rule what's best for Trump? And if that's
I'm
the case,
hoping they'll rule
then he
on the side of the
wins.
Constitution, being that that's what they're supposed to do.
But these are questions you really have to ask yourself, because he did really stick his neck
will
out.
I bet on Vegas with that? Probably I would bet against that.
Oh, that
they'll rule with the Constitution.
Oh, so they're probably gonna root for Trump.
I'm thinking they're gonna go with loyalty to Trump.
So at the end, Trump could win.
That would be my assumption.
I mean, to me, if you look at it, he's not acting like a person that is scared of the Supreme Court.
This is who? Kavanaugh?
No, Trump.
Oh,
Trump is not acting like a person who's scared of the Supreme Court. Because if you look at what he did, he said, you know what? Forget what the Ninth Circuit said. Let's just talk frank. He said, forget what the Ninth Circuit said. I'm telling you right now, Mexico, if you let anyone in without that port of entry, without seeking asylum, I'm going to cut funding. And the Mexico president, Enrique Peña, said at the time, you know what? I'm out of here anyways. Forget it.
It's going to be interesting to see how AMLO deals
Right.
with that
He
now.
said, forget it. The 500 people that breach, I'm going to deport them, right? So which means the Ninth Circuit just said, even if they breach, they have a right to seek asylum. But now Mexico's saying, I don't care. You're right. So now it's going to be interesting with this new president to see what he does.
It is going to be. And that's political posturing and political pressures, not necessarily the legalities of it or how it's going to be dealt with the incoming president that was recently sworn in yesterday. That was honored with the indigenous ceremony for the first time I'm aware of since probably the Aztec times, since, the 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very unique for a Mexican president to come out and first of all make indigenous fabric of the of the country be part of his inauguration, which to me is way long overdue, because knowing the history and the background of Mexico and the Mexican people, the fabric of the Mexican people is Native American, is indigenous.
Right. Okay.
And for generations and centuries now, that reality has been suppressed as a residual of the colonization from Spain and French powers. And so it is already revolutionary with this new president coming in to say,
Right.
not only do I acknowledge the needs and the presence of our indigenous fabric, but I am going to make that an official part of my inauguration. I thought symbolically that was a major victory.
Let's segue into this other topic, racial bias in the media. And the reason why I want to segue into this is because there's a few instances that I saw in the media. The one that you saw where the white individual was named Scott, where he killed his wife, his pregnant wife.
Yeah, that's
Chris
tragic.
Watts. So Chris Watts, he kills his pregnant wife and their 2 kids, right? And because he wanted to have an affair with, I believe, the woman that he worked with. But if you look at the pictures, right, of this, all the pictures they show him is this loving father. They have him and his wife, him kissing his wife, and he just murdered his wife and his and their pregnant child that he. There was reports that said that he don't believe the child was his, and his 2 kids, and yet the media is portraying this individual as a victim.
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, if you look at the pictures, just look at the pictures. Look at all the pictures. He's always, you don't see his mug shot like they did with Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby, definitely get you on that.
They had his mug shot, right? If you look at this individual's, Chris Watts, just look at his pictures.
But I would ask if they're doing it, if the reason they're doing it, if the effect they're trying to go for is the shock of, like, look at these pictures of how, on the surface, how loving this person looked, how perfect this family looked, and then look at the outcome of this heinous crime. That's when I see those pictures of how they portray them, that's how I take it.
That's how you take it? What about with Bill Cosby? How can you didn't have the Cosby picture? Well, look how he portrayed being a TV dad with being a Huxtable, and look at him now. So they had
you know what?
Come on,
I agree.
How they deal Bill Cosby?
I agree.
And I'm not saying Bill Cosby innocent, right? Because he got convicted. I'm just saying if they, I mean,
let's also acknowledge conviction doesn't always mean somebody's
whether
guilty
you believe
in
Bill
American
Cosby
justice
guilty or not.
system.
I'm just saying they always showed Bill Cosby
not to defend. I'm not defending Bill Cosby.
No,
I'm
they
just
showed him
saying
struggling
in general.
They showed him struggling getting into the courthouse.
Yeah.
They always showed his picture with
No,
his suspenders
I
on,
agree.
one eye looking down.
There's a disparity between how people of different ethnic backgrounds are perceived in the media, and sometimes it is intentional, sometimes it is not. But at the end of the day, yes, there is oftentimes a disparate treatment.
Well, and let's talk about this. So you had that officer, she the former officer, I think her name is
the white woman that killed the black man in his own apartment.
So she mistakenly said she came into the apartment and she shot him. So at first they charged her. Once again, look at this.
So for our viewers, the background is, just to recap. This is a police officer, a white woman.
White woman, 4
She
years.
kills this black man in his own apartment, right. and the excuse that she used was
she thought it was her apartment.
She came home and thought she was in her apartment.
Right, she was in her apartment.
I don't think a single person
will believe that. So that's why they upgraded it to murder. But I'm just saying at first, but even with her, okay, look at this. She says that she was in her apartment and she killed this individual. She was allowed bail. Now, I don't know if they would allow, let's say it was a black man coming and he shot a white woman in her apartment, would allow him bail. But she gets bail. So then after they do this grand jury, right, they just came back with the grand jury indictment. They upped it from manslaughter to murder, right? So at first they were trying to charge her with manslaughter as a mistake. They said, okay, this killing could have been a mistake. Well, after they got testimony from, I think it was
now
like
they're
30,
saying it was
30
intentional, basically.
They believe that it could have been intentional, and it upped it to murder. But even then, even with her, you see how the media portrays her. They got her picture where she just looks so sad, right? I don't see.
Well, that's her mugshot. Of course she looks sad.
But once again, I don't see the pictures. Like, for example, Michael Brown, when he got killed by Darren Wilson, they had the video with him pushing the when he was robbing the store clerk, and they had other pictures, or even, you look at some of these other individuals that have died, and I'm not trying to get into this race war, but I'm just saying, just look at how the media portrays individuals.
No,
like Trayvon Martin.
I definitely agree, man.
They had him.
I'm going to put this up right here.
They had him, and look at his pictures, right? So to me, it's like the media is controlling. I mean, they're really filtering this stuff out. They're filtering out this race. I think they're controlling the race in the society, because they're saying, okay, you know what? If you're one color and you kill, we're gonna give you a pass. Like case in point, they did this study. I think we posted on the Tell Like It Is Facebook, where you had Timothy McVeigh and then you had this black individual, and they asked who was the teacher, and the kids said, oh, him, Timothy McVeigh. Well, he was the bomber, And so
I saw that.
You saw like they're conditioned to saying, okay, well, we see this.
But a lot of that is not just the media, but a lot of I mean, it's so ingrained. It's on so many levels and facets, from movies to music to history. There's so many avenues that presents itself that it's I don't think we can just put it solely on the media, because I think at the end of the day, the media is a reflection of our society. It does shape our society in many ways, because it has the airwaves, and it has control over people's what they watch and what they hear, how they're being fed. But in many ways, it's also a reflection. So I think we also have to look at society's failings or challenges as a whole, instead of just solely putting it on the media, because I think that's more of a symptom than it is the sickness.
What I'm asking with the media is, do you think the media creates fears? Because it seems like
in many ways I would agree.
Because let's say
we see the Iraq War, the selling of the Iraq War was a perfect example of that.
Where they just get these stories out there to draw fear, right?
Yeah.
And there's another incident with the media you had those 4 officers got charged with beating a protester who happened to be a 22-year vet as a police officer. What in this situation, what happened was, I believe there was an officer involved shooting. They killed an individual, and they were out protesting. And so they said in this particular area, where was it at? St. Louis. It was in St. Louis, that the police, they used unnecessary force. So they put a 22-year vet, staged him as a protester, and these 4 officers beat him, right? And so, once again, I don't hear the media covering these stories as they would cover, like, the migrants, right? And the reason why I say that,
you're saying this was a black officer who was undercover.
Right.
They sent him to infiltrate a protest
against
police brutality.
But they
and
said
the police end up beating him.
Yeah, they beat him, a 22-year vet. But with that being said,
so he essentially reinforced the fact that there's a problem with police brutality.
But they said this is an isolated incident, and I think so they get an isolated.
So it's isolated when they do it to their own officer, but it wasn't isolated when it happened to.
No, I'm just saying I truly believe.
Shot in the back.
I believe that the media is biased, and I think the media, they put out narratives that they want us to believe, right? They want us to believe in fear. So of course they'll show the migrants running, and so the canister to create fear. They'll show Darren Wolf shooting and Charlie, or shooting him at the church, right? And they'll show his mug with him with his tongue out, just to create this fear, right? They'll show these other incidences just to create this fear, to now you have people living in fear. So either you rule by force or fear, right? So I believe that the media is purposely doing this to create fear. So
is it fear, or is it really what they're doing is maximizing their profits, because they've become so commercialized they have to sell commercials? And I think that's more of what the problem is that instead of being institutions that are really the only institution that is mentioned in the Constitution as having protections with the freedom of speech, First Amendment, is the media,
right?
Because the framers of the Constitution understood the vital role that freedom of speech played in facilitating the American Revolution and creating this American Republic, to continuing to allow that to exist without being overtaken by business interests. And I think what we see now with the media is they look at something and they say, this is going to be sensational. This is going to, we're going to show this commercial, this snippet. People are going to tune in at 10 o'clock. They're going to watch us instead of Channel 3 or Channel 10. And we're going to get the views. And then when we get the views, then we get to sell that to the shareholders, and then we get to maximize the profits, and then we get the sponsors. And I think that's what is the real problem of what has infiltrated American media, is not that they have like a predisposed agenda to say we want to incite fear throughout the nation, but that they are really acting out of a profit motive rather than being journalists to say we need to tell these stories and be objective and really look into what are the cause and effect. And I think that is the greater concern.
Well, let's be objective. Now, last week we talked about your main man, California Democratic Party, Eric Bowman. Right?
For the record,
your
I
main
voted
man.
against him.
Nah,
I
your
voted
main
for,
man.
as a
Your main
California
man.
elected
So-
delegate to the state party.
So we
hold up.
Okay.
Let me go on the record and say I
Okay.
voted against him, and I voted for Kimberly Ellis.
You
to be
can't
the
believe
chair.
nothing to Flip Bice say. He probably voted for. He ain't gonna tell you the truth. That's why he got that hot drink over there. tearing our mouths up, burning us up right now.
If you notice, he only had one sip.
Oh man, this
can't
thing's hot.
hang.
Well, this is hot. Don over there laughing.
can't hang.
Governor
Once
Don cracking
again.
laughing. No, so look at this. He finally did the honorable thing, right?
He didn't do the honorable thing.
Oh, he didn't?
He did what he had no choice to, which was resign because that was the inevitable outcome.
Okay.
I'm not gonna give him props and being honorable, is what I say that is because there were already issues with him, which is why so many delegates. Keep in mind, I'm a delegate. I've been at these conventions. There were already issues with him. With this type of behavior that was being brought up, and
but he still won,
and he still won by a narrow margin, and it was a very hotly contested race.
Aren't the elections coming up in 5 weeks anyways?
And yes, for delegates.
So for delegates and not for his vote again, right? For the delegates, it's
for
5
delegates
weeks. Okay.
that will represent the assembly districts at the state conventions. So I was part of that, like I was with the Bernie Hillary battle, and really the California battle with Kimberly Ellis and Eric Bowman was a continuation of that, where you have people who want to see the party move forward in a different direction, be more inclusive, value people over corporate profits and corporate interests, business interests, and then you have the corporate Democrats who are kind of establishment, part of the old guard, and Eric Bowman, that's what he represented. And so when this comes out, it was not a surprise for a lot of people in my camp of being on supporting Kimberly Ellis. So at the end of the day, it was already a hotly contested election to begin with. So when these allegations came out that were vetted, that were deemed credible, that it was just a matter of time before he was out because from all indications of what I've researched, these are credible allegations.
So did because I know there's a Me Too movement. Did the He Too movement or Him Too movement come out against him?
See, people think
because you have a Him Too movement.
No, well,
yeah.
When Me Too came out,
initially
it was women,
right?
But then you have Terry Daniels come out, right? You have I forget his name from Star Trek come out against the actor from Kevin Spacey.
Okay, that's true.
Right?
Kevin Spacey.
So you had
he said he was groping
males,
at 14 years old.
you had a lot of males also come out.
So you had a Him Too movement. So did the Him Too movement?
Who were also part of the Me Too to say Me Too is not gender based, right? That it's not just women that can be abused,
but male can be
by men, but men can be abused by other men. And then you also have Christina Garcia, who was the chair of the California Democratic Women's Caucus, who was also facing allegations from her male staffers that they were also sexually harassed and groped, if I recall. So it's not just people often think it's a man perpetrating against a woman. No, it's men perpetrating against other men. It's women perpetrating against men or other women. Right. And so I think that's what's important to not be lost in the conversation of the Me Too movement, to understand it's not just a male-female transaction, that it's more universal than that, and really everybody has a responsibility to play in making sure that the workplace is safe, political officers are safe, staffers are safe, being respected. But there's still a lot of ways to go. I have friends that worked in the state capitol in Sacramento who, when they came forward with allegations, it was on the news as far as headlines and, oh, good for them. But behind the scenes, that real support never showed up. Yeah. And I think that's like with Christina Garcia, you have Susan Eggman, who's the assembly member for Stockton, basically support her and double down on her support for her, and now and donate the max amount allowed by law to her re-election campaign. Right. And so when you have the chair of the Women's Caucus also being accused of alleged sexual harassment, that's a problem, right? So where is the call for her her resignation, and where is the pressure that's being?
Let's keep it real.
I think it is important to maintain that we be equal across all areas of the field.
But it is a double standard. If you look at it, I look at from Michael Abernathy, he was out there just hounding Judge Kavanaugh, and yet when accusations come against him, then he wants everyone to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I need due process." I see Keith Ellison. Same thing with Keith Ellison doing the same thing where his woman said he viciously beat her.
Yeah,
drug
Keith
her out.
Ellison. Who else?
But no one. But I'm just saying. But if you look at it,
they even got Neil deGrasse Tyson now.
Oh yeah,
right?
they got Neil deGrasse on Fox.
No, the physicist or the astrophysicist.
Yeah, they say he was sexually assaulting people. But I'm just saying, it seems to me.
Who else was falling from this? You had what's his name from Charlie Rose, right?
Charlie Rose.
You have the guy from Matt Lauer from Good Morning America or no, not Good Morning America. That's a different network. But
I'm just saying, But to me, is they pick and choose who they want to go after. But segueing, we got to talk about this Cohen-Trump situation, that plea deal. I looked over what Cohen said. He said that he lied to Congress.
Got to jump in when you mentioned in that Avenatti. Avenatti was released, no charges filed. The FBI declined to charge him. LA County hasn't charged him. Charges found to be unsubstantial. So,
well, actually, what they did, that's true.
Yeah,
but
so you lumped him in together with people.
No, but this is what they did though. They referred it to the misdemeanor section of the County of Los Angeles. They said the felony section they wasn't going to charge. It didn't warrant a felony. But what they said is we'll refer it over to the misdemeanor section.
And
they haven't filed charges yet. But the misdemeanor section could file charges. But going into Cohen's plea deal, right? So I looked at this plea deal. He's saying that he lied to Congress. So I don't know if people believe Cohen, don't believe Cohen. This is what I can say. Cohen had issues.
Who was Cohen?
So Michael Cohen was Trump's personal lawyer. I don't know if he was so much his lawyer as so much he was his. Is
the same one that paid off Stormy Daniels?
The one that paid off Stormy Daniels, right? He was more like the henchman or just the go-getter.
Okay.
So Cohen had issues. So what Cohen has, he had these medallions in New York. And medallions allow you to do the taxes. So he had these medallions that were worth millions of dollars. He wasn't paying taxes, or he had some issues with taxes. So the state of New York was coming after him, right? So this is separate than Trump. Now all of a sudden, right? Because remember, president pardon only affects federal, it doesn't affect state. So Mueller really has a squeeze on him. So now you have this individual saying, okay, you know what? I remember taking a trip to Moscow with the Kremlin or whatever he said, and I was trying to set up this hotel deal with Trump with a hotel. And I don't know how that's collusion because Trump was a businessman before he ran for office. So in theory, even if he was trying to have Russia build a hotel, how is that wrong for a businessman? People knew he was a businessman when he got elected. It wasn't like it wasn't like he was a career politician that made his money off the sweat of people. He made his money, I guess off the sweat of people, but he didn't make it doing politics. He made it creating buildings, right? Whether they flopped, didn't flop, but that's how he made his money. So now you're talking about
banks does he have? 6 or 9?
Well, he don't have no bankruptcy. His company's bankrupt a whole bunch.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying,
even though his name is the company.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you look at it, Cohen is facing some serious charges. So he's now saying, "Oh, you know what?"
So now you're saying he's selling wolf tickets.
Oh man, he's saying, "I will tell you the truth." Can I get a lighter sentence, please? So, at what point do we say?
That's all it is.
At what point can we say, "Listen, the state got you. You need to do your time like everybody else who commits tax fraud." But instead, he's saying, "Hey, well."
So you're saying these are trumped up charges?
Trumped up charges. What I'm saying is, Trump was a businessman. He was doing a business deal. Even if the deal, I don't know how that deal relates to collusion. But now you got Cohen, who's now saying, "Oh yeah, he's admitting to everything. I lied to Congress." Then he said the other one, election violation, campaign fraud. They got him pleading.
He's just singing like a stool pigeon now.
And I know Governor Iman looking at this. They got him pleading to anything. They could tell him that he jaywalked and he would plead to jaywalking. He is pleading to everything they throw at him.
Did he plead to being a Zodiac killer?
Oh, he
assassinated
would.
JFK?
The way he's going right now, he would.
No, that was Ted Cruz.
That was Ted Cruz.
No. Joking
Fact check
aside,
on that. Let's fact check on that.
Fact check. Ted Cruz has not been confirmed to be the Zodiac killer at all.
But remember, Trump said
or
his father
have killed
JFK.
But in response to that, so the issue is this.
Okay.
Michael Cohen is saying, when I said that we were done talking to the Russians, we weren't. But because Donald Trump said we were done talking to the Russians, I said that. But we talked to the Russians for 6 more months after that.
So he's saying Donald Trump told me to lie.
Yeah, but once again,
hold on. That's just it. So we don't have to add nothing else to it. That's what the real.
That's what he's saying now. But let's follow up to Great Governor Don.
Okay.
He's saying, okay, I know I'm facing almost 5 years in prison. Mm-hmm. Can I get a reduction in sentence?
Yeah, maybe he wants one. He obviously ain't gonna get the pardon.
Well, he can't because the pardon don't even affect state.
But here's the issue. So I think what you're doing is you're actually talking about what's not important.
Okay, what's the?
It doesn't matter whether he's gonna get a pardon or not. What matters is that he's already
admitted to liar.
Forced.
Well, he said,
wait. Now you said admitted liar. So
he has admitted lying.
What's better, an admitted liar or someone who's obviously lying and won't admit it? So
I don't know which one's better.
I'm just saying
Because he could be lying to save his own skin again.
But again, those are things we could argue about.
Okay.
Here's what we can't argue about.
Okay.
The amount of money being discussed and the amount of influence being discussed, and we're talking about tens and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay. Money at play.
That type of money. If somebody asked you, what would explain our president's reluctance to ever criticize Russia? Well, you probably don't have an answer.
Or Saudi Arabia.
Or Saudi Arabia. You probably don't have an answer for anything that would explain it. But somebody might say, well, hundreds of millions of dollars would explain it.
That's right.
So that's where
break it down, Governor.
That's
Don.
where
break it
that's
down.
why it's a discussion.
Okay.
It's not a discussion whether it's not. If we could discuss it, but it's really a waste of energy. You know, we know that all these dudes is liars.
Okay.
So. And that's what an informant is. An informant is somebody who can't be trusted.
That's true.
Okay, so this is just how law works.
But that goes to his point. What motivates them? Right?
I'm just gonna say this.
Lightning their sentences.
If we're gonna say that though, when all the charges come dropping, then let's say the same thing.
Okay,
there's more charges coming.
Even if it's cut in half, that's part of the. That's in the ballpark of the conversation.
We got to get into the tell it like it is story of the day.
Let's tell it like it is.
So I ran across this article and I could not believe it. You have a Texas woman.
Okay, what's her name?
Who says? Okay, let me get her name for you.
It don't matter.
The son's name is James. So you got this Texas woman and her husband. I guess they divorced. She's saying that the boy is a girl because every time he's at her house, she dresses him up in girls' clothing. The father is saying, wait a minute.
Does she dress him up or does he want to be dressed
up? Now,
she's
saying that the boy wants to be dressed up in girls' clothing and that he's a transgender and she needs to change his sexuality right now. He needs to go from a boy to a girl. The mother's pushing this. The father said, when he's at my house, I put girls' clothing on the bed and boys' clothing. And he rejects the girls' clothing and he wants the boys' clothing. So let me tell you what the mother's doing now. This is why it's the tell it like it is story of the day. The mother is now suing the father for child abuse because he won't let the child be a girl and have the transgender. And this is out of Texas. So the father now has to go to court to answer charges of child abuse because a 6-year-old boy wants to be a boy, but the mother wants him to be a girl. Now, what's wrong with that? This is what I see happening in your Democratic Party. Because I checked her credentials. She was a registered Democrat.
So I gotta just go on the record as saying I don't see this as a partisan issue. What this sounds like to me is a family court issue, right? It sounds to me like you have a man and a woman who aren't getting along, got divorced. There's a child in the middle.
His name is James.
James.
And you know what the mama called him? She calls him Luna.
Okay.
This is his name. When he goes to the
Mexican too now?
Just as she calls him. She calls him Luna.
Ethnicity?
She calls him Luna.
Okay, so
he's 6 years old. He's a 6-year-old child that at the mom's house from James to Luna, and he's got to wear girls' clothes with the mom.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge for transgender members of our community,
right,
that children as young as 6 do start discovering that, you know what, I don't want to go this route. I'd rather play with these type of toys. I'd rather dress this type of way, and they start having an affinity towards expressing themselves that way, right? So I would have to look deeper into this to understand, is this a genuine issue of a young boy?
But he's 6 years old. Do you think that 6-year-old?
There's children that could be that young. Is what I'm saying is
let
that
me pose this question.
Understanding, I would rather if it's a boy, they'd rather play with girl stuff or dress like girls.
But they're
right?
6 years old. Do you think at that age they know if they really want to be a boy or girl? Just look at Angela Jolie's and Brad Pitt's.
I would have to ask.
They're trying to say he's a transgender kid.
Is it the child's own expression, or is it the adult trying to put their ideologies or views or whatever we can identify it as to say, this is what I desire, and here goes yet another reason to fight against his father, or here's another reason to fight against his mother. That's what I would hope is not going on. If it's a genuine expression where this young boy, James, feels that he'd rather be a girl, right? Then by all means we have to respect that. But if it's 6 years old,
if
it's genuine, it's genuine.
But I'm saying, okay. So when I was,
but if it's not, then let's say the scenario is the mother is trying to impose this on the child. Then is that child abuse on her?
No, but here's my thing. I know we have transgenders, we have same-sex couples, and I'm not trying to debate any of that. All I'm saying is if an individual is 6 years old, he is still learning who he is, right? So then, if he's older, if he's 18, and he says, hey, you know what? I'm a man, but I'm trapped into a girl's body. Well, go ahead, right? Because at that point, you're an adult. I think when these are children, and as children, it's our job to protect them, right? We guide them as best as we can, but at some point, they didn't have to say, you know what? I'm same sex. I'm a same sex couple. I'm a transgender, or I'm this, I'm that. But that's their choice. I think it should always be their choice. It should never be the parent putting what they want on them. I think it should be the child's choice when he gets of age to make that decision.
I agree with that, but all I'm saying is that we have a notion that of age is like until you're grown up. And what I'm saying is based on evidence and human sexuality is that sometimes young children do start expressing themselves as the opposite gender.
I gotta ask Governor Don
their own.
Governor Don, because I know you got kids of your own, right? And I know you got young ones, and so what do you think about this? I mean, just in general, if you think about it, a 6-year-old, and just as a father, you can say how many kids you have. I don't want to put your business out of the street.
7 kids.
Okay, you get a father with 7 kids.
Yes.
Now, growing up, they all had different personalities.
Yes.
Maybe some of your sons wanted to play with Barbies. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
What? Not on my watch.
Okay, there we go.
No.
No, but they had different personalities.
I used to like to make little outfits for my Han Solo dog. I made him a dope, Jedi.
I used to do the same.
Cloak.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I had this belt on,
right?
Right. He had guns and swords.
Don't mean you won't.
That didn't even match. Like, he had He-Man swords.
Right.
It didn't matter to me. You know what I'm saying? Kwanzaa, we made dolls.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct. I made some dolls too.
But here's before I get into responding to that, I want to say one thing. To me, the real issue is that this is even a thing. I think it's actually sad to me that so many people have to feel like they need to change themselves. Like a boy who looks like a boy but feels like a girl shouldn't even have to feel like they should dress like a girl. They should be able to dress how they want, and it should be okay for them. If they want to act this way or that way, everybody else has their own version of a description. But it's really up to the individual. And I think that a lot of the issues we have in the transgender community are not solely on them seeking to find their identity. It's on society rejecting their identity. Yeah. And so body mutilation and self-deprecation and suicides are very high in the transgender community because they are not even accepted no matter how they are. So the real thing is, like the Native Americans had many genders in their community and they accepted people as they were. And, they'd be like, oh, there's that person. And, they don't be like, we don't talk to them because, he got a husband.
That's just
they
how
don't
they
care
are.
about that.
That's just how they are.
And in fact, traditionally, and in all the ancient communities, a person who's transgendered is started to be something that is special. because they're able to understand both genders. So they actually thought to have magical properties or be closer to God.
Oh, because they can relate to both sides.
Right. And traditionally and culturally for many thousands of years, the transgender person was the religious leader in the community, the spiritual leader in the community. And so
that's deep. That is deep.
Yeah, it's like that. And that's where, culturally, before we got into being tripping off how divided we were, we always tended to accept people as they were.
Right.
It's when outside influences put economic constraints onto us, then we try to fit ourselves into these roles in order for us to survive. So it's really a survival instinct, just like racism is. Unfortunately, these instincts are exacerbated by economic interests that really, they do well when we fight each other.
That's true.
So think about this. This conflict is going to be adjudicated in court. It's going to cost a bunch of money. Here we are, court of public opinion. We're going to change policies at schools. We're going to do all this kind of stuff just because we won't let these folks do their thing and let this kid do his thing. And these parents want to fight about it, and they can't even... They're bringing us into their problem because they can't communicate.
But
that's what I'm hoping that it's
who
not.
knows what the 6-year-old kid wants?
Exactly.
The child. I would say the child.
But what I'm saying, but
I'm gonna counter that and saying the child doesn't know what he wants.
Thank you.
The child knows this. He wants to be happy. And
we don't know that based on the story because we don't know if it's genuine or if the mother is fabricating this.
So
or
I'm not
if the
saying
father
that
is
child
resisting.
specifically. I'm just saying children. A child in a divorce, and it's a young child, a 6-year-old. This child is mostly focused on making his parents happy.
Correct.
So if mom likes him to act like a girl, that's what he's gonna do.
Right.
And if dad likes him to act like a boy,
that's what he's gonna do.
That's what he's gonna do.
But he don't know what he wants.
So he don't know what he wants because the parents don't know what they want.
Right.
Okay. Now, if the parents wanted him to be happy,
then he would decide what he wants.
They might not even be divorcing.
Oh, okay. That was deep. That was whew, that was deep.
True that.
That was deep. No, but even with that transgender, right? And I'm segueing back into this immigration because this came up. Remember, you had the transgender that's saying that I think they had not a GoFundMe, but who wants to sponsor to come from asylum to come over here because they feel
the immigrant caravan from
because they feel that they were discriminated, and that goes deep with these transgenders that they feel that they're discriminated.
Yeah.
And so even then they're asking to be sponsored. So if you want to sponsor a few of them, you can. They can get out here. They looking for some sponsors. They're looking for good Democrat.
When I
sponsors.
start making that good Republican money, and I can add on to the mansion.
If you, as bad as first of all, we can't equate gender inequality with racial inequality, but it's different. It has similarities.
Wait. I mean,
there's some similarities.
Yeah,
but there's some.
But what I'm saying is, as bad as you think they got it here, where we tripping off whether they use the bathroom, which bathroom they use. Imagine how bad they got it in third world countries, and then in that caravan.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying, in the military, in high school, and if you take any arena where we have a diversity of people, the transgender people do about as well as the lowest ethnic person on the totem pole.
So that segues into a perfect
societal
topic.
Forgive me for saying totem pole. I should have said the pecking order.
That's because low man on the totem pole is the base in indigenous society.
That's why I said that.
So that's a perfect segue into another recent development in the immigrant crisis and transgender issues is that we've saw last week where one of the private prisons that is contracting with ICE.
Yeah.
They had a transgender immigrant that was beat to death.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
In their detention center. This follows along the lines of a continued record of human rights abuses alleged against this company called Core Civic.
Right. Sad.
It changed its name. Formerly, it was known as Corporations of America. I don't recall specifically. But the part for me as a Democrat that I find problematic on many levels is that with on a political level, you have many Democrats using this as political grandstanding to bash the Trump administration, to bash Republicans, which to me, Republican and Trump policy should definitely be called out. But at the same time, it should not just be used for political grandstanding. It should be a genuine sentiment and call to action, right? So when I see these same Democrats, like Gavin Newsom, like the current chair of the Women's Caucus, LGBT caucus member Susan Eggman out of Stockton, as well as Adam Gray, Adam Merced, and even Kathleen Galgiani out of Stockton, state senator. You've had Latino Political Action Committee. You've had Governor Brown. You've had all these top-ranking party Democrats all take money from this corporation that are running these private prisons where transgender and other immigrants are, being beaten to death or being abused in other ways, that are being sued by the ACLU. And so to me, it speaks to the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party here in the state to call something out for political posturing, but they are not following through, and they're actually receiving money and taking money for their political campaigns from this very same corporation. So I feel, calling out Eric Bowman and the Me Too movement, that's important, and it's definitely needs to be addressed. But at the same time, I'm also seeing my fellow delegates, my fellow Democrats be silent on this very same issue when there's not an immigration rally that's nationwide going on all over the place, and the dust is settled, the lights are away. At the same time, this money is still being taken from this corporation. So that's something, to me as a Democrat, I feel needs to be called out. And regardless of how the Republican Party feels about that, private prisons operating ICE detention centers,
that's a discussion in itself.
That's a discussion in itself. But at the very same time, as Americans, I feel that, incarceration should not be privatized, because when you have a profit motive, you add an extra element to that where now you have a financial incentive to have somebody
we'll get
incarcerated.
We'll get into that one other time.
So maybe that'll be a good topic for next week's show.
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna end this show. We want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. Like our Facebook page that we have.
Tell It Like It Is on Facebook. We got our website launched now.
We're getting our website
so
launched.
We want to tell you the name of the website is WeTellItLikeItIs.com.
Right.
Start going there. You can see these topics that we're talking about be uploaded. The article is uploaded, so you get further research and more in-depth knowledge of these issues.
And then we're on iTunes, Podbeam, Stitcher, Google, and on our website, website and on the Facebook page, we'll put those links out.
Yeah.
But yeah, going next week, we do have to get the live call-ins, and so we'll try.
And I keep shout out to everybody tuning in. I keep looking if anybody asks questions, but everybody's just kind of chiming in. We don't see no questions.
But what we'll try to do, we'll try to get the call in. We'll try to demo it out, see how it is. And actually, when we're gonna be live with it, so we'll decide we're gonna do that. But hey, I want to say thanks again, Governor Don, for producing this show. We appreciate it. As always, we're trying to get into that Tracy market. We want to be the voice of, what do you say?
Voice of San Joaquin.
Voice of San Joaquin. We're trying to cover the whole San Joaquin Valley and far beyond that. So we'll be here every Sunday at 6 p.m., and we'll see you next week. And
give or take.
Give or take, but we're going to bring you some fiery sessions next week. And thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all the love and support.
Salud.
Salud.